whole thing was all around open office, open office, open office, dominate California, basically. And I quickly realized maybe I could do that, but I don't want to do that. 2015, we bought our first investment for that, and it was a duplex, and we paid $84,000 for it, which is in California, believe it or not. I think my personal X factor is just being willing to go for it and to try new things. I'm not afraid to fail.
Today, I'm sitting down with Courtney Twiss, broker, investor, hotel owner, and founder of Now Nation, a national network helping eXp agents grow without ego, pressure, or noise that usually comes with this business. Courtney built Twiss Realty into one of the top brokerages in Yosemite, California foothills before merging it with eXp. And she spent her career proving that calm, deal-solving leadership can scale just as fast as the loud kind. We're getting into her real estate story, what it actually takes to build something like Now Nation, and what she's learned about leading and being a woman leading in this industry. This is X Factor Marketing. Let's get into it. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm really excited to be here.
I know. I'm excited to get to chat with you. So in the intro, I talked a little bit about your background, but you sort of came from a corporate world in banking into the real estate industry. What did those sort of early days of your career in lending and banking prepare you as you made the transition into sort of the 1099 independent contractor real estate world? How did that prepare you to make that transition?
I think I learned what I didn't enjoy doing, which led me to, kind of segueing more into the real estate side of the business, which I definitely prefer over the lending side. But yeah, I was doing lending right out of college, and I was in the subprime market in Central California. So lots of it was a pretty interesting time kind of during that boom right before the recession, where I was doing tons of loans. And then obviously the market shifted dramatically. And with that shift, I actually shifted into the real estate market and became a brand new realtor in 2007, where I got to learn how to hustle and to work really hard, and did a ton of short sales and foreclosures like so many of us that were in the market at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, that idea of like hustle and working hard and a shifting market, I mean, that has been a theme kind of throughout your career and throughout building your business. So take us through that trajectory of those early days of an agent, and then actually starting to build your own brokerage business. How did you make that arc?
Well, from the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to be a broker. When I went to do my education to become a realtor, I had signed up for my broker's courses immediately. My background is with a business marketing degree, so I got to skip a few classes, and I thought, I think I want to be my own. I want to run my own business and have my own business. And I knew that from early on, but I also recognized that I was maybe 23 at that point, and that I needed to learn how to do the business first before I could go have my own. So I ended up working with a small independent broker. I found another agent that I pretty much teamed up with since I was a young mom. I have 3 daughters. And I think like a lot of women that get into real estate, we think that we're doing it for freedom and flexibility, not really recognizing that, especially in the early days of your career, there's not a whole lot of that. But it worked for me. So by partnering up with someone, I was able to have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule, even though I was giving up some of that income, right, to do so. But it made sense. And eventually I grew my business to where I was one of the top producers in the market, and eventually decided to go ahead and open up my own brokerage when my 3rd daughter was 6 weeks old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know I guess I was crazy at that point, but I thought, why not have a newborn and start my own company? And then I kind of kept it small on purpose for a little bit for that reason, right?
Yeah. So you built then your own brokerage out to multiple offices, starting from that one office. and then
Yes.
take us through the arc to joining EXP. And you joined EXP in 2023?
Yes, it's been 2.5 years. And I initially was introduced to Don Yocum through Vistage, which was a CEO group that I was a part of for a number of years. And the chair of my group knew Don. He actually had mentored him years ago. And he said, why don't you talk to him? Because it was hard as a broker to have someone that you could talk to and be vulnerable with and transparent with regarding like your numbers and different tactics that you can take to grow when the market is tough. And 2022, we had started to see a shift again in the market, and I knew that I was going the wrong direction. I just wasn't sure what direction I should go in. My margins weren't quite there. I was going from office to office, and I also had run my business with EOS, so I had my vision for 10 years out, and the whole thing was all around open office, open office, open office, open office, dominate California, basically. And I
Yes.
quickly
Okay.
realized maybe I could do that, but I don't want to do that. There must be an easier way to scale.
Well,
And
and
that's what I
so I want
learned.
to pause on that for just a second
Mhm.
because so many entrepreneurs, and I want to dig into sort of the entrepreneurial side a little bit more, but so many entrepreneurs start with sort of this grand vision, and then they realize that that vision is not actually what is going to bring them fulfillment.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that happened in your case. Like you had that realization that like grand domination of California is really not what I what is going to fulfill me and kind of make me happy. How do you, like, reflecting back on that, how do you now help people? Because I know this is something that you do. How do you help people get clarity on the difference between a grand vision and actually fulfillment in their business?
Mhm. I think people have to be willing to let their egos go. And as an independent broker, we're the worst for that, I would say. I don't know, maybe
Well,
all
I
of us
think
in
the
sales,
quote card so far is people have to be willing to let their egos go, right? Like we need that
Mhm.
on a t-shirt.
Yes, yes, because we think, oh, okay, I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like if I make a goal, I'm going to achieve it. And it's hard sometimes to pivot, right? It's scary, or to say, all right, maybe that's just not really the right direction in the current market or the current climate or for my agents or my leadership team. So I think with coaching other agents along those same lines, it just comes with lots of questions about themselves, about wants versus needs. What does it look like for their family? There's a lot of variables at play, and you have to just be willing to make the appropriate change for what works for you in that moment in time, or what will work better for your future growth.
And staying real with that, because
Mhm.
I think your story is such a great like highlight of that, of what we think at any given moment is the vision or the goal of our business. Fast forward 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, the world changes, our life changes, our family changes, our business changes, the market changes. I mean, there's so many things that change, but I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs don't reflect back on those changes and align their goals with that. They're still marching towards the goal they set back at the start line, even though time has moved them forward or they've moved down the field to a certain point. There isn't that realignment. So I think that realignment is so key. And for you, part of that was then joining EXP, and we're so glad that you did. So I want to pick up on the story of so you joined EXP, and there was some realignment with that, and out of that was born Now Nation. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Now Nation, I co-founded it with my business partner Michelle Roderick, aka the General. Ask the General on Instagram. And we did know early on that we the importance of branding an organization, because EXP has lingo that you don't really understand when you're on the outside world that we learned, right? So you have the production or your production team. So in my case, when I moved to EXP, I completely restructured and created a very small production team to help work my leads in my local market. And then you have your organization, which are agents that you sponsor or your agents sponsor and help bring on. And I feel like it's more of a mentorship role. And we realized we wanted to brand that, which is Now Nation. So I have my Twiss Realty Group. I retained my branding that I had prior to EXP for my production, and all my local market still knows me that way. And now I'm a local expert with a global reach of EXP, which is
Awesome. I
awesome. And
love that.
expanded my
Local
business.
expert with global reach. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not an or, it's an and when you as a broker or team lead join EXP. And I didn't understand that at first, but it's been a byproduct that has served me well. And now Nation has grown. So I think we're in 5 states, sitting right around 100 agents. It's awesome. We meet weekly. We have masterminds. We do in-person get-togethers multiple times a year, and it's just turned into this really collaborative culture of hard-working agents that want to grow and want to help one another. And we're starting to see some real momentum, which has been really fun.
That's awesome. So you describe Now Nation as a network built without ego, pressure, or noise. And that's a very pointed phrase. So tell us a little bit about like why that positioning, where that came from, and really how that energizes the members of Now Nation.
Well, I would say, it's a collective of agents and we're all running our own businesses. We all have our own brands. So there is not that pressure that you have to run your business a certain way or that you have to recruit, for example. That's kind of a myth about EXP that you hear before you come over is that, oh, if you go to EXP, you have to recruit. Well, that is a big part of my business model. I've been doing that for years prior to coming to EXP, but that's a personal choice. And we can see, you've been in the business a long time. There's a lot of ways to be successful in real estate. And what works for one person might not work for another. But that's where the collaboration comes in, where you can learn from one another, open up your playbooks, be willing to share what worked for you or what didn't work for you. And we have a very high level of collaboration in our group, but we're also very much, I guess you could say, the type of personality that we don't mess around. we get down to it, right? Now Nation, we're making moves now. We're not waiting for opportunities to come to us. We're seeking out opportunities. And I think that's where that comes from.
I love that. So speaking of seeking out opportunities, you are not just a real estate entrepreneur. Like you have several businesses on the go. Tell us a little bit about the entrepreneurial ventures outside of just real estate, because you've got some like interesting business things on the go.
Yes. So my husband and I, between the two of us, have 4 companies. He runs our commercial fencing company, which we are based out of Mariposa, California, but they do work all over different states, primarily for government entities. And then I do have a lending company. I'm not a loan officer. I don't do any of the loans, but I have had that background for all these years and have maintained it. And then a hotel. You mentioned we have a hotel. And it's a small boutique hotel. Being outside of Yosemite, we got into that whole short-term Airbnb market pretty early on. 2015, we bought our first investment for that, and it was a duplex, and we paid $84,000 for it, which is in California, believe it or not. And it was almost a tear down, but we fixed it up. We rented it out for years. We sold it, did a 1031, and picked up the hotel, which we still have today.
That's amazing. So, it really does fit into that like principle of Now Nation. We do things now, that entrepreneurial spirit and like being an entrepreneur far beyond just like one income stream. And I think that is something I see in so many of our EXP entrepreneurs is they have their production business, as you described. They have their rev share organization that they grow. And then they also have multiple other businesses that may directly relate to real estate, like investments, or lending, or other things like that. Or it might be, totally separate. But that entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well, and it's super interesting. When you are working with other agents or talking with other agents that you're looking to give them advice or sort of inspire their entrepreneurial spirit, what would that advice be?
I think it would just be and most of the time, to go for it, right? I mean, a lot of people are just scared to start. And I actually just got off one of our Now Nation huddles, and we had Bill Pipes on, who's an excellent real estate coach. And he mentioned something along the lines of, and I might mess this up, but you have to be willing to fail more than how much other people even try, right? And I would say that failure is probably more important than the success when you're an entrepreneur, because you just have to keep trying different things, and it won't all work out, but eventually you'll get to what does. So I think you would just have to try it, right? If it doesn't work, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great advice. I want to zone in a little bit, particularly to women in leadership, because I think that, speaking of the advice of failure, I think we as women have probably a more particular challenge with giving that advice, that we probably carry that fear of failure heavier than our male colleagues do. So what advice in particular to women who are growing their leadership skills would you give?
Well, for one, I mean, a lot of women put themselves last. And that's another key factor of a strong leader, for men or women, is that you have to reinvest back into yourself. And I think it's so important to not put yourself behind everyone else. And, there's a time and a place for that, but you have to be willing to invest in yourself, whether it's in coaching, going to conferences. At EXP, we have a lot of really wonderful conferences that we get to take part of. And, just, I don't know, just like I said, pouring back into yourself and then into others at the same time, right? My leadership team was all women when I had my brokerage, and not really on intentionally, but I think there is an attraction element to that, of strong female leaders want to be around other strong female leaders. And we just have to show one another that we don't have to do it all, but we can do something. And if we put our head down, we can do it really well. And we're stronger together if we're all working together.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Now, you have built a really strong presence on social media. Tell us a little bit about how you tackle being a content creator, and what systems you put in place so that you can have a steady stream of content being put out there. And in particular, I follow you on Instagram. You do a great job with your Instagram content. So take it from that perspective of Instagram content.
Well, like I said, my degree was in business marketing. Obviously, since 20 years ago or plus that I had got my degree, a lot has
we didn't have to
changed.
worry about Instagram.
We didn't have Instagram back then, but I love Instagram. I have a very creative side, and it's an outlet for me to try different things and different trends, and to be okay with, again, back to the failure. Some of my reels flop. Some do great. Some, I have my kids that are really embarrassed because mom's dancing on camera and all their friends are seeing it. But you just have to get over yourself, get over your ego, and just have fun with it and try different things till you see what hits and what works. And I do have someone that's on my real estate team that worked for me as a W-2 capacity prior to moving to EXP. She also helps me with some of my marketing. So she puts on, like a 3 or 4 a week consistently, and then I plug in the rest. And that helps me with systemizing and making sure I have something coming out regularly. Plus, she's in my local market and she knows me. So we can get some really good kind of organic, fun content.
And does she film you? Do you film yourself? Like, what does that look like?
Both. We just
Mhm.
recently bought a drone. So we just did a reel of us trying to learn how to fly this drone and following us around downtown Mariposa, which is where my office is located. And that was fun and it was silly and we were not doing a great job of it, but it just kind of shows like the real behind the scenes because so many in real estate these days have to be content creators. It's all about video. And so you got to try, the different methods to help you achieve your goal.
Yes, yes. And I really think that advice, and we're using the word cringe a lot, right? Is you got to be okay with the cringe, is good advice. And it ties directly in with the fear that you mentioned earlier. You gotta get over the fear and be okay with the cringe. And if you can do both of those, you'll be a good content creator.
I agree. And just to monitor, like right now I'm using Claude to help me analyze my content to see if I should maybe narrow down my focus somewhat and what that would look like and who do I want to get in front of, so that I can get more engagement and more DMs. And I think AI has been an amazing tool for, especially for those of us that are creative, to just do more, right? To do more.
Yes,
So
it
that's,
does.
you,
So
you
tell
have
us
to
a little bit
change it up.
more about that. How do you use Claude?
So Claude, I do use it to systematize some of my like everyday tasks, like going through my emails multiple times a day. And then I just take a quick peek and be like, okay, here's an important one that I need to go look at. The rest is fluff, or I don't need to worry about it. I have a bunch of connectors in there that will do things automatically for me, such as connecting to Canva Pro, which we get for free through EXP. I have my brand kit set up in there. And so now just tell Claude what I want to do and it does it for me rather than me having to go in Canva and manually do it. So that's one thing I've been using. And then the other thing is just really making sure that I'm visible to AI. That's been a campaign I've been working on the last year. I've been teaching people, other agents, how to do it because searching through AI or searching through SEO are quite different from one another. And I think a lot of realtors are missing the mark on how to monetize AI and actually bring in leads from AI rather than just using it for their marketing, which is what most people do.
Yeah, great, great advice. Very important. Great, great, great ways to use Claude there for sure. All right, Courtney. I ask everyone who visits me on the show what they think their personal X factor is.
Uh, I think my personal X factor is just being willing to go for it and to try new things. I'm not afraid to fail. I want to just get out there and give it my all and keep looking for those opportunities.
That is a great X factor, and definitely your track record shows that, and you inspire a lot of people by continuing to keeping going for it, and even more important than that, sharing that you go for it, and that helps inspire others to go for it as well. So thank you for sharing your story and some of the insights in how you run your business and the things that you're doing with Now Nation. How can everybody reach you and connect with you on Instagram?
You can find me at All Things Twiss, and that's TWISS, All Things Twiss.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Courtney.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate you.
You too.